All right, let's dive deep into the latest updates surrounding the Dallas Cowboys. And we have a lot to cover today. First and foremost, the big talking point right now is the situation with Savoni Rebel. Reports are coming out that he's had a bit of a setback in his recovery from that knee injury. This is coming from Albert Breer, who dropped this little nugget of information during a podcast chat with Connor. Now, let me give you the full context, because you know how it is, these reports start flying around and people love to jump to conclusions without really understanding what's going on. Breer mentioned that Savoni Rebel had, in his words, a little bit of a setback with his knee, but he also emphasized that he thinks Rebel will ultimately be okay. The exact quote came as part of a broader conversation about the Cowboys' draft strategy, where Breer pointed out that the Cowboys took a bit of a risk grabbing Rebel given his injury history, but also noted that if Rebel hadn't gotten hurt, we'd be talking about him as potentially the first cornerback off the board in this year's draft. Now, let's pump the brakes before anyone starts freaking out about this. From what I've gathered, this setback that Breer's talking about actually predates the draft. This isn't something new that just popped up out of nowhere this summer. In fact, several sources I've spoken with indicated that this issue was one of the reasons why Rebel slipped to the third round in the first place. There was real talk before the draft that he might sneak into the second round, but the injury concerns clearly played a role in where he ultimately landed. And let's not forget, Rebel wasn't the only guy in this draft class dealing with injury-related question marks. Trey Amos also had some medical stuff going on that wasn't widely publicized at the time. These things happen, especially when you're dealing with prospects coming off major injuries like ACL tears. Speaking of ACL tears, Rebel's injury happened back in September. So, when you line that up against the typical recovery timeline for ACLs, where guys are usually looking at a 9 to 12-month window before returning to full action, we're right in that gray area where it's understandable that there might be some lingering issues. Most players coming off ACL injuries are still working through rehab at this stage, not necessarily cleared for full speed cutting and lateral movement. That's just how the recovery process goes. Now, is it a little concerning that he's not fully cleared yet? Sure. Anytime you're talking about a high draft pick at a key position like cornerback, you want him ready to go for training camp. But this is also right in line with the expected timeline for a player coming off an ACL tear. Some guys bounce back quickly, others need a bit more time. The reality is, there's always a risk when you draft a player recovering from a major injury. Sometimes they come back and never miss a beat. Look at Nick Chubb, who tore up his knee in college and came back as a dominant NFL running back. Other times, guys struggle to regain their old form. Just look at Michael Gallup, who, let's be honest, has not been the same player since his own knee injury. For Rebel, the Cowboys clearly felt the upside was worth the gamble in the third round, and I agree with that. When you're picking in the third round, you're not finding many clean, high upside prospects at premium positions. Rebel was absolutely worth the risk at that point in the draft, but again, this is a situation the Cowboys are going to have to manage carefully. We're now getting closer to training camp, and while there's still time, the team is going to have to decide how aggressive they want to be with his return. Personally, I think they're going to err on the side of caution. NFL teams typically slow play these situations, especially with rookies. The last thing you want to do is rush a guy back too soon and risk a more serious setback. That could impact not just this season, but future seasons as well. And remember, once a player comes off the physically unable to perform list or PUP list during training camp, you can't put him back on unless you want to shut him down for the entire season. That's a huge decision point for the Cowboys. If Rebel is even remotely questionable when camp opens, I would expect the team to give him extra time to ramp up and possibly start him on PUP or the non-football injury list, since this injury dates back to college. And look, we're talking about a position group that's already dealing with question marks. Trayvon Diggs is still working his way back from injury, and while Darren Bland can handle one side of the field, Week 1 could be a real challenge if Rebel isn't ready. Let's not forget who the Cowboys are facing right out of the gate. They've got to deal with wide receivers like A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith from the Philadelphia Eagles. Even if Rebel is fully healthy, you're talking about throwing a rookie corner into the fire against one of the best receiver duos in the league. That's a tough ask. And honestly, I don't think Diggs is going to be ready for the start of the season either. Even if he's activated off PUP, expecting him to be 100% right out of the gate feels overly optimistic. That means the Cowboys could be rolling into week 1 with Bland, maybe Kyler Elam if he steps up. And then guys like Caleb Carson, Israel Mukuamu, and Andrew Booth rounding out the depth chart. Not exactly ideal when you're facing one of the most explosive passing attacks in the NFL. That's why I fully expect the front office to take a long, hard look at this cornerback group during the first couple of weeks of training camp. They're going to see how the young guys perform, check on Diggs' progress, monitor Rebels' recovery, and then potentially make a move for a veteran cornerback in late July or early August. If things aren't trending in the right direction, the free agent market may not be overflowing with elite options right now. But there are always veterans floating around who could come in and provide some stability. And all of this circles back to why this training camp is going to be so critical. For the Cowboys secondary, they're banking on young players stepping up, guys returning from injury on schedule, and the coaching staff being able to quickly evaluate what they've got. If it all comes together, great, but if not, I wouldn't be surprised at all to see them bring in reinforcements before the regular season kicks off. Now, while we're on the subject of training camp, let's touch briefly on something a little lighter. Cowboys camp gear is officially available. If you're heading out to Oxnard, or even if you're just watching from home and want to rep your team while cutting the grass or running errands, there's a full line of hats, t-shirts, hoodies, and even bucket hats and visors. Gotta protect yourself from that California sun, right? But alright, let's shift back to football. Next up, let's get into this Bleacher Report article that's been making the rounds, outlining 3 moves the Cowboys should make before training camp gets underway. Now, let me tell you, I've got some thoughts on this list, and not all of them are positive. First on their list, prepare to install the new defense. Seriously, that's the big suggestion? As opposed to, what, not installing the new defense? I mean, come on! That's like saying the first thing you should do when you wake up in the morning is breathe. Of course they're installing the defense, that's a given. This is one of those low-effort takes that just leaves you shaking your head. The Cowboys have been working on this new defensive scheme ever since Mike Zimmer was hired as the new defensive coordinator. This isn't something they're just starting now in June or July. The foundation is already being laid during OTA letters and mini camps. Honestly, I just find it lazy to list that as one of the top 3 moves the Cowboys need to make. There are way more pressing and interesting decisions looming for this team than something that should already be happening behind the scenes. Alright. The second move Bleacher Report suggested actually makes sense. Extend Micah Parsons. Now we're talking. This is the obvious one, the no-brainer, the free square on your off-season bingo card. And yet, for some reason, it still hasn't happened. Parsons is one of the best defensive players in the league, and it's only a matter of time before he becomes the highest-paid non-quarterback in the NFL. Bleacher Report pointed out that the Cowboys currently have about $32.5 million in salary cap space, which should make getting a deal done even more feasible. There's no need to overcomplicate this. The team needs to lock him up long-term. Waiting any longer just increases the cost, and for anyone worried about the cap impact, let me just clarify something. Extending Micah Parsons would actually create cap space for this year. That's right, you'd free up room. Parsons is currently set to count about $24 million against the 2025 cap. By giving him a new deal with a big signing bonus and spreading the cap hits over future years, the Cowboys could reduce that number significantly. But before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the Dallas Cowboys. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments as well. Whispers are growing louder around the NFL landscape, and if the latest murmurs are to be believed, a seismic shift might be on the horizon, according to multiple unconfirmed reports. Josh Allen, yes, that Josh Allen, could be set to don the star and call AT&T Stadium home. The rumor swirling through both front office circles and online forums is that Allen has agreed to a blockbuster 4-year deal with the Dallas Cowboys. While there has been no official confirmation from either the player or the team, the idea alone has sent shockwaves through the football community. The possibility of Allen joining the Cowboys is as electrifying as it is unexpected. The franchise has been in quarterback limbo for some time, with questions surrounding long-term stability at the position. If Allen were truly making the move from Buffalo to Dallas, it would mark one of the most stunning quarterback acquisitions in recent memory, perhaps even rivaling Brady to Tampa or Rodgers to New York in its potential to reshape the balance of power in the league. Sources close to the situation have been tight-lipped, but some insiders suggest that conversations have been quietly ongoing for weeks. The rumored 4-year agreement would likely place Allen among the highest-paid quarterbacks in NFL history, a move befitting his stature as one of the league's premier dual-threat signal callers. Known for his cannon arm, mobility, and fiery leadership, Allen could be exactly the kind of high-impact presence the Cowboys need to break through their postseason glass ceiling. Skeptics, of course, are quick to point out logistical hurdles. Allen remains under contract with Buffalo, and there has been no public indication of a trade request or tension with the Bills organization. Could this be a case of internet gossip, spiraling into full-blown speculation, or is there truly smoke behind the fire? Either way, fans and analysts alike will be watching closely over the coming days for any hint of validation. For now, the idea remains just that, a tantalizing possibility. But if there's one thing NFL fans know, it's that in this league, the unthinkable has a funny way of becoming reality. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Dallas Cowboys, please subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. We always look forward to your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.